So winning at life, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? It kind of conjures up visions of Charlie Sheen talking about winning and what does that mean? Winning at life means to me is that all areas of your life, which are interconnected, are all doing well and all feeling balanced. And let's get started with what are the most impactful and important factors in our lives. And I would have to say it's health and relationships. Because if your health is not good, it's going to affect the rest of your life. If you're not feeling well, it's hard to go to work. It's hard to interact with other people. It's hard to just live life in a normal fashion. If you're not feeling well, if you've got a chronic illness, or something is affecting your health on a daily basis. Relationships are an important part of that, because good relationships are going to contribute to good health. Here you see some research that was done by the California Marriage Initiative, and this is specifically about marriage, which is the deepest relationship probably that you can form, in that healthy adults in healthy marriages, married people live longer. They have lower stress levels, they have better health practices because they have somebody who's telling them, support in a supportive manner. Don't you want to exercise today? And how about we eat something healthy for dinner? They're going to help you with those better health practices. Married people show a lower incidence of mental health issues, again, because they have that mental support at home. And they're financially, economically, and socially more stable. And that's because they're a team and they work on their goals together as a team, and you can accomplish so much more. But good relationships contribute to good health. So we want to keep our relationships strong. So, because to focus on relationships is to focus on your health. A lot of people who have been focusing on career and trying to get ahead in their careers tend to kind of let their relationships fall by the wayside, and then they find out that they get a buildup of stress. They have a lot of negative feelings at home, so that can impact them at work as well. So what we want to do is make that balanced. Focus just as much on your relationships as you do on anything else, because when you focus on your relationships, you're going to contribute to your good health. The number one thing in a good relationship is good communication. Communication is the grease in the gears of every relationship. It's what makes everything continue to flow smoothly. Effective communication. And Tony Robbins has said the way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. And that's so true. Because if you're holding things back, if you're carrying around baggage, and you're not able to talk to your spouse or your girlfriend or your best friend or your partner in any way, if you're holding things back and unable to talk to that person who's closest to you in this life, then it's going to negatively impact your life and your health. So let's talk about what is effective communication. What makes up effective communication? Well, number one is honesty. Again, that if you're holding back and not being honest and not showing who you really are to this person, then it's going to detract from your ability to communicate well. You have to have trust and vulnerability. Now, these go hand in hand. You can't be vulnerable if you don't have trust with somebody. So it's a two-way street there. If I trust you, then I can be vulnerable with you. And if you want to be vulnerable back, then you have to feel trust with me. Another important part of effective communication is active listening. What's the difference between listening and active listening? If I'm just listening, then I'm just hearing what's going on. It's like having the TV on in the background while you're doing something else. It's multitasking. Active listening, on the other hand, is Sorry about that. Active listening, on the other hand, is when you're not distracted by your cell phone and you're paying close attention to what the other person is saying. You're looking at their body language, you're picking up on their tone and all of their meaning as they're speaking to you. And you're taking all of that in, and then you're checking back with questions to make sure you're understanding what they're saying. That's active listening. That contributes greatly to effective communication. The last one is follow-up. Now, one of the things that married women complain about is that they have to say to their husbands that what they want done around the house or how they want him to do things, and he sort of listens, but then he doesn't act on it. He doesn't follow up. So then she feels like she has to continue to nag, and that is one of men's number one complaints as well, is the nagging. I don't want to be nagged. Tell me once. Well, okay, I'll tell you once, and I'll trust you to follow up on it. But if you break that trust by not following up on it, then what do? I'm going to nag. So following up is very important to effective communication. It lets everybody know they can trust you and that you have heard them, so they don't have to say it again. Coding and decoding. Now we're down into the minutia of communication. So coding is when we are putting together our message or what we're going to say to people, and that is dependent upon our language, our culture, the family we are raised in, our experience, and our understanding of our own feelings and our own self. So we have to take all of those things and code our message in such a way that the person we're speaking to can decode it. That means they need to be on a level with us where they understand our words, our culture, our family and experience, and they understand us. Let me give you an example of coding and decoding and how that can cause a problem when it's not decoded correctly. Or there might be a colloquialism that you use that the other person doesn't understand, has never heard, and doesn't know what it means. One time when I was speaking with somebody, she was from New Orleans, and I had never heard this phrase. She said, "Don't get me down the road about it." And I was like, I don't know what that means. And she got really upset with me for not understanding what she was saying, because she thought everybody had heard that phrase before. I had explained to her, that is something I've never heard before. I don't even know what it means. So then she had to back up and train me and teach me what her experience was, what that meant in her language and her culture and her family. I'll give you another little example. Toby was doing an interview with somebody who brought up a colloquialism, and it happened to be red-headed stepchild, which is a colloquialism that means they're less liked, or this particular thing is less liked than other things similar to it. So because somebody didn't understand that was a colloquialism, they were upset by it. They misunderstood, and they felt insulted. So we have to make sure that when we're coding our messages, the person we're speaking with will be able to decode the message in the way that it was meant. Now, it takes two to communicate, and when we're communicating, we need to have clear, honest messages. Try not to go into things that are colloquialisms that other people may not understand. To be clear, you may have to say in other words and explain it in 2 or 3 different ways. You also want to consider the feelings of that other person. If they misunderstand, are they going to be hurt or insulted by the way you're saying it, or the tone of your voice, or the words that you've chosen? You have to consider the feelings of the people who are hearing you and deliver your message with compassion. So put yourself in their place. Especially important if you're giving constructive criticism. You need to deliver that sort of message with compassion. It's a very good idea to sandwich things like that with a compliment, and then here's what I'm seeing that I would like to see more of, or here's what I'm seeing I would like not to see again. And then you go into that behavior, and then you give another compliment, and you're doing great work, and I thank you for being here, that sort of thing. So deliver your message with compassion so that that person feels that they're not being attacked, but that they're having an honest, open communication with you. Then check your understanding. If somebody's speaking to you and they've used some kind of phrasing that you didn't quite get or understand, check your understanding. So what I'm hearing you say is, and then you would repeat what they said in your own phrasing so that they see that you do understand the message or that you didn't quite get it. And then they can either say, yes, you're understanding me, or no, what I meant was, and say it another way. So that checking for understanding is super important, especially to get those difficult messages across. Take responsibility. Taking responsibility means you're owning your own feelings, you're owning your own part of the conversation, you're not taking on their feelings. You're not feeling like I'm being attacked here, but you can say is, I did do that, and I stand by it, or I apologize for it. I do have those feelings, or I did do that thing. Take responsibility, because when you do that, it frees up the conversation to be balanced so that everybody can win. You want to come up with a win-win solution. And that can only happen if you take responsibility for your own actions and your own feelings. In a marriage relationship, satisfaction is achieved when effective discussions result in higher relationship and sexual satisfaction. So that's taking care of that nagging. When the woman feels heard and she feels like you have followed through, you build her trust, you build her intimacy with you, and that results in a better relationship, and in the marriage, sexual satisfaction. Let's talk about married women's complaints just a little bit more. Again, we talked about how they feel like they're not being heard. They're not feeling supported. They feel disconnected. They feel a lack of intimacy. So how do we address those complaints, and how do we avoid those complaints completely? Well, number one, actively listen, like we talked about. And that means paying close attention, not multitasking. Support their feelings. It doesn't matter what they're feeling. And then you have to say, you know what? I hear your feelings, and you don't take them on yourself. You don't say, she's feeling upset. She must be mad at me, or that must be something I need to fix. Just support the feelings. Don't take them on yourself. Quality time. Everybody wants quality time in their relationship. And what does that mean? What does it mean, quality time? It just means being together and having that time and an opportunity to communicate with each other. You could be doing anything. It doesn't matter. You could be doing the dishes. You could be out on a date. It could be anything. But having the opportunity to communicate is what's important about quality time. Express your love. A lot of men, especially much older men, were not taught to say I love you. They're like, you know what? I go out and I work and I bring home money and I help around the house. That shows you how much I love you. We need to hear it. Both of us. The men need to hear it. The women need to hear it. We need to say it out loud, expressing your love, and affectionate touch. Affectionate touch is just simple, around the house, stroking her hair, or putting your hand on her shoulder, or giving her a kiss before you leave for work. All of these little things add up. So you don't want to just only be touching during sex. You got to also spread that out throughout the day to let her know and keep in touch comes from that. It's like we got to keep touching so that we stay connected and we stay intimate. Common argument causes. The fights of many couples result from men dismissing women's emotions instead of attuning to them. So if you want less arguing and more happiness, more affection, then you need to look at this. This particular comment comes from a study that was done in a love lab, which was set up for couples who come in for counseling, who are fighting and who do not know how to solve that problem. And they analyzed that most of the fights occurred because the men were dismissing the women's emotions. And what does that mean, that they were dismissing their emotions? It means they were either trying to fix them, they were trying to distract her from her feelings. Oh, that's neither here nor there. Let's look at this thing instead. Or trying to fix them. Oh, you shouldn't feel sad because this. Trying to minimize them. Well, you'll get over it. It's not that big a deal. Mock them. Well, that's dumb. Why would you feel like that? That doesn't even make any sense. Or ignore them altogether. Let's talk about something else. Or move on. Or just, walk away. These are the things that are going to cause the most fights. Instead of that, here's the solution. Attune. Attune stands for attend, which means eye contact. Paying attention, putting away any distractions. Turn toward, that means to physically turn your body towards the person you're talking to. Understand, or attempt to understand. That means that's that listening and looking for that message, decoding their message. Non-defensively listen. That means if she's saying things like, I am so tired of taking the kids to school every morning. Well, that doesn't mean you have to fix it. That doesn't mean she's saying you did something wrong. Non-defensively listening is just, I hear what you're saying. That must be hard. That's empathizing. That's that return that they're looking for. That's all they're looking for, is that empathetic response. Unless they've said to you, you need to fix this, or you need to do something about it, then all that person is looking for is just empathy and listening. So keep that in. So now Toby and I are going to do an Attune demo.
I haven't seen the subtitle on this slide.
We get into it. Okay.
Into it.
Now I'm going to have to qualify just a little bit. Toby has, because of his sales experience, he has years and years of practice at doing what I've just talked about. He didn't call it Attune, he called it sentient sales, and he also learned to communicate this way with the people that he was in relationship with. Attune is attend, so we're putting all of our distractions away. We're turning towards each other. For this instance, pretend that I'm your wife.
Okay. Hi, sweetie. How was your day today?
Well, it was good. How was yours?
It was okay, but when you say something as good like that, I always feel like there's something I'm missing. What am I missing? Now, let me make a point here. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, what she did to me was not give me any additional information. I started with what is referred to as an open-ended question. How was your day today? I was expecting a response that told me how her day was today, whether it was bad or good, so I could start, one of the things that you're going to find is that you have a sense of something is wrong. And what's interesting to me is with today's multiple forms of communication, from cell phones to text messages to emails, et cetera, we're always in communications. And I can predict for you, as it does for me, that if your partner, if there's something wrong with your partner, you will get a sense of that in the communications throughout the day, whether, like I said, text messages or emails or voicemails, whatever. So if you see indications of that, make sure you allow yourself to be aware of it so that you're prepared for whatever happens when you get home. And just the way she said it, I can tell we have an issue, and I've got to get that out without saying, without being condescending and saying something like, oh, well, I'm glad your day was good. So was mine. Let me tell you about it, right? Which is the wrong thing to do at that point. So I got several of your text messages today, and it's the text messages made it sound like it was very different from going good. What happened?
I don't know. I'm just a little stressed, I guess.
you're one of the few people that I know in my life that doesn't often get stressed. So it must be something unusual and different that's causing it to be that way. What's causing the stress?
Well, I'm just, my mom's visiting, and I always get stressed when she's visiting because I have to clean the house, and nobody helps me clean the house, and so I'm doing it alone, and I feel like there's so much to do, and I get stressed.
When was the last time you saw your mom?
Thanksgiving.
And what is it that causes her to be coming for a visit this time? What's going on?
Oh, she's on her way to a family reunion, so she's stopping by to have dinner and visit.
Where's she going to be staying while she's here?
She's staying in a hotel.
And what is it? I know your mother well enough to know that she's a relatively uncomplex person. Sure, she's a mom, and you have the mom-daughter relationship. But what is it about this one that's caused so much this particular visit that's caused so much stress?
It's every visit, and it's not really her fault so much as it's something that I think I'm holding on to from the past, where, she would, when I was growing up, I was kind of sloppy, and she was a very neat person, so we always had that dichotomy, where, and then when I had my own house and she'd come over to visit for dinner or just for whatever, she would, kind of remark on my less than pristine housekeeping, and how, if you just clean up as soon as you're done with that, instead of, and then it's like, why is it me that has to do all the cleaning anyway? So I feel like it's put upon me to be, this perfect little housewife, and I mean, she doesn't talk like that anymore. I think she's let it go, but still I feel that way when she comes to visit.
For as long as we have been together, and for as many times as your mother has come to visit, I wasn't aware that it created this kind of a stress in you. I'm glad we're having the conversation, but what is it? What could I have done to recognize this better? I didn't see it earlier. What's the difference this time?
There's no difference this time. It's just trying to get my work done, and the kids are adults now, so I would think that they would be more helpful, but like they just sleep all day and don't do anything around the house, and it's like I get frustrated with that.
I noticed that as well. I feel like it's time to have a conversation with them, because you're right, they are adults. Yes, they're in school, and we've committed to get them through that, but I think maybe we need to make them aware that they're a part of all of this effort, that this is a big machine, and we all need to work that way. So how much time do we have left to get things taken care of this time? Because I know that's the key. We can talk more about it later, but how much time do we have to fix this situation?
I don't think there's fixing of this situation. This is just from here. I mean, she'll be here any minute, so
Well, then, what can I do to help you get through this, so that this visit from your mother is a good and fulfilling visit for both of you?
I don't know, other than just, keep things moving, flowing, keep the dishes put away, as things happen, and maybe put some of your stuff away that's in the dining room. If you could take that out to the shed, that would be very helpful.
So basically tidying up after myself would help?
Yes, that would help a lot.
Okay. I can do that. Kissy face. So that pretty much went the way it should have gone, in that, and Shelley can confirm this because I'm going to step back out here, in that Shelley got off her chest what she had on her chest without accusation, without criticism, without all the things that are part of that attune method to listening and understanding, and kind of getting a chance, because as Shelley said, and in my experience, there's a lot of things that women want, as many things that women want as men want, but one of the things that they want and it ranks right up there as far as I know, is to be listened to, and to be listened to without judgment. And so, again, my experience is that no matter how mundane for you this problem might sound, your spouse's relationship with her mother, which, your first reaction is, well, that's none of my business and I can't fix it because my relationship with my mother is no better, is that they are very aware that you can't fix it. They are very aware that these issues, especially with parents, go way, 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 way back, and that you're not an expert in resolving those. But at this point in time, more than anything else, all they want is for you to listen to them, to give them the opportunity to express it. And you may have to dig, right? So the real issues didn't start arising until several minutes into that conversation, where she felt comfortable enough, trusted you enough to be able to start sharing what was really wrong. And yeah, you were part of it. You're not a tidy person either. You haven't been picking up your stuff in the dining room. And you can help by making sure that as the meal goes on, as the dinner goes on, you're helping to tidy up as well. Right. So, but it took a while to get to that point before. And what you're trying not to do, one of the things that they don't necessarily appreciate is that word fix. What can I do to fix it? They don't need fix at that point. They need you to understand and let them offer what you can do, because they know you can't fix it. This is between Shelley and her mother. There is no Toby, or in Kevin's case, there is no Kevin fixing that. But what you can do is empathize and figure out how you can fit into the solution, rather than creating additional problem of saying, it's just your mom, don't worry about it. You guys have always been like that. And I know what that's like, because that's how my mother and I are. That's none of that stuff.
Because
Right.
then it's about him and not me anymore. And that's just like, we were talking about me, and that shuts me down. And that's why it's so hard to get that information out of me. That's why I end up answering the question, how was your day, with good, how was yours? Because I've learned that it doesn't matter what I talk about, he's going to shut me down and take over the conversation anyway, so why bother? So that's why attune is so important. And for the softer side, I'm your relationship coach, Shelley Carney.